They told us Americans would torture children. I learned the truth in Belgium, 1945, when Sergeant Ford pressed milk in my hands, injecting penicillin into my arm. I expected poison. I tasted butter on white bread. But to understand why I'd believed Americans were monsters who would torture me, but they gave me the most expensive medicine on earth and a seat at their table, know what happened in the Ardennes. The user wants me to write chunk 1/6 of a WW2 veteran memoir, specifically Chapter 1, The Miracle of the Mold, cold open. WW2 veteran memoir, ghostwriter for males 65 plus, field hospital in Belgium, winter, 1944 to 1945, then transition to Ardennes. Chapter 1, cold open, 1945. Arno wakes in clean cot, smell of antiseptic/bread, Ford hands him sandwich. But to understand why I'd believed Americans were monsters who would torture me, but they gave me the most expensive medicine on earth and a seat at their table, know what happened in the Ardennes. This transition line was the last line written previously. I must start with the next second. No repeats of this line. Wait, looking at story so far, it ends with, D. But to understand why I'd believed Americans were monsters who would torture me, but they gave me the most expensive medicine on earth and a seat at their table, know what happened in the Ardennes. Actually, looking carefully at the instructions, D. But to understand why I'd believed Americans were monsters who would torture me, but they gave me the most expensive medicine on earth and a seat at their table, know what happened in the Ardennes. Chapter 1, The Miracle of the Mold, cold open, 1945. Wait, there's confusion here. The user says the story so far ends with that transition line, but also says this is chunk 1/6 of chapter 1. Let me reread. Actually, looking at the story so far section, it seems like the previous text ends with that transition sentence. But the user says, start with the next second, no repeats. However, the current chapter description says, cold open, 1945. Arno wakes in a clean cot. The smell of antiseptic and fresh bread. Sergeant Ford hands him a sandwich. Arno expects poison, but tastes butter. Transition. But to understand why this bread felt like a betrayal of everything I knew, we have to go back to the snow of the Ardennes. Cold open. But to understand why this mattered, I need to take you back to the coal dust tasted like copper on my tongue, metallic and ancient. I pressed my spine against the cellar wall, feeling the dampness seep through the Hitler Youth tunic, 3 sizes too big, taken from a dead boy outside St. Vith. The Panzerfaust rested across my thighs, 60 pounds of steel and hollow terror. My fingers had frozen to the trigger guard, skin bonding to iron. I couldn't feel my toes inside the felt boots anymore. They had become wooden blocks, distant and numb.
Do you hear that? The engine stopped.
Above us, the farmhouse floorboards groaned. Not the heavy tread of boots, but the shifting of empty space. Abandonment has a specific sound. It creaks like a coffin lid. I tried to adjust my grip on the weapon tube, but my palms were slick with sweat despite the cold, sliding on the blue steel.
Keller, Bauer.
The voice was knife-sharp, Bavarian accent slicing through the dark. I tried to stand at attention, but my knees had locked from crouching. The Panzerfaust clattered against the stone floor, loud as a gunshot in the confined space.
You are the rear guard. This position holds until the 12th SS Panzer Division regroups 3 kilometers west. You have 1 projectile. Make it count against the American armor.
Herr Oberstleutnant, we have no ammunition for our rifles. The supply train never arrived. We cannot.
You have the Faust. When the Sherman turns the corner of the lane, you will fire. You will die, or you will be heroes. There is no third door. Understood?
He stood under the swinging bulb, his face shadowed by the peaked cap. The silver death's head gleamed at his collar, polished to a mirror shine. His breath didn't mist in the air. He had been outside, but not long enough for the Ardennes cold to reach his marrow. Not like us. His boots were black mirrors, hobnails sparkling.
Hey, soldiers in the cellar! We see the vent! Come out with your hands on your heads!
The accent was flat, ugly, American. But underneath the harsh consonants, something else. Not the screaming of propaganda films, a fatigue that matched my own.
If you surrender, I will personally ensure your names are listed as traitors in the Berlin registry. Your families will receive the bill for the bullet. Do you understand? The fatherland does not forgive. It does not forget.
We understand, Herr Oberstleutnant.
Good. Then fulfill your destiny.
He turned. His greatcoat swirled like a black wing. The boots, those polished boots, climbed the wooden stairs. The door slammed. Then the bolt shot home, metal scraping wood. A finality.
He locked it. Arno, he locked us in.
I'm coming down. I'm a medic. I got no weapon in my hands, just my kit. Don't do anything stupid, kids. I just want to talk.
The door handle turned. Gray winter light spilled down the steps, blinding after the dark. I raised the Panzerfaust. My arms shook violently. The tube dipped toward the floor. I wasn't strong enough to hold it steady.
Easy. Easy now. I'm Silas. I'm from a place called Dayton, Ohio. You know Dayton? No? That's okay. I'm here to get you out of this icebox.
I couldn't speak. My teeth were welded together, chattering against each other like dice in a cup.
Don't shoot him, Arno. For God's sake, don't shoot.
That's right. Don't shoot me. I'm here to help. You want some chocolate? I got Hershey's in my pack. It's cold out here, huh? Colder than a witch's.
He stepped into the light. His boots were brown canvas, scuffed, held together with twine and desperation. No shine, mud-caked. He extended his hand, empty, palm up, fingers red with chilblains. Outside, I heard the rumble of Sherman tanks idling, not breaking through, but waiting, patient.
Put the tube down, son. Nobody's dying today. Not you, not me. The war's over for you right now, today.
I looked at the locked door behind him. The German lock, the German betrayal. I looked at the Panzerfaust, the German weapon. Then I looked at his outstretched hand. It was then I knew, truly knew, in the way a boy becomes a man through grief, that my own commanders would have let me rot for the fatherland. But this stranger, my sworn enemy, was offering me a way to live. The wheels screamed against frozen rails, a rhythm matching the throb in my temples. I pressed my forehead to the barred window, watching the black void of Ontario rush past. My hands were bound with American wire, smooth and industrial. My fingers were swollen and purple. The blood long stopped. The car smelled of coal smoke and the sour sweetness of infected wounds.
Keller, look at me when I speak to you.
I didn't turn. Schmid's voice was a wet rasp. He sat 3 benches back, still wearing SS tabs, though the Americans had stripped his belt and boots. His eyes held that specific madness, the conviction that Germany was winning even as we rode a boxcar through enemy territory.
Keep your eyes down. The enemy shows you these lights to break your will. This is psychological warfare. A true German closes his eyes to such temptations.
They don't need to break what is already shattered, Herr Oberstleutnant. I saw Aachen. I know what prosperity looks like now. It looks like hands that don't hit.
Arno, please, look at your sleeve.
The Hitler Youth Dagger insignia on my tunic had frayed into threads. Lucas, a 17-year-old Luftwaffe helper, pressed his shoulder against mine. He smelled like the hay of the Belgian field hospital.
The medic said he'd look at your fingers when we stop. Do you think he meant it? My mother said the Americans starve their prisoners.
I meant it, son. And we feed you better than your own quartermasters were doing. Scoot over here. Let me see those hands before they turn gangrenous.
The American medic moved down the aisle, his bag smelling of iodine and wintergreen. He unwrapped the wire from my wrists with cutters that clicked like insects. The blood returning felt like shattered glass. I gasped.
Wiggle them. Good. Another hour and we'd be talking amputation. You got feeling in all 5?
Yes, I feel them.
Good. Sensation means life.
Don't accept their charity, boy. It's weakness. A German soldier dies before he takes the hand of a Judeo-Bolshevik sympathizer. You shame your blood. Us.
You shut your mouth, Colonel. This boy's 15. He's not your soldier anymore. He's a kid with frostbite who tried to kill me with a Panzerfaust last week. And now I'm saving his hands. That's called being human.
The medic's voice carried an exhaustion that sounded like kindness. He rubbed salve into my palms with broad farmer's hands. I stared at them, nicked with scars, yet impossibly gentle. These hands had held my jaw open in the hospital. Now they warmed my frozen skin, while my own commander wished me dead for the crime of being captured. Schmid would have shot me for retreating. This stranger was preventing gangrene. I wondered if this was what defeat felt like, the unbearable weight of mercy.
Arno, look outside.
The train curved on a trestle. The window blazed with electric white light. Water. Impossible water. Rising higher than any building, a thunder I felt through the floor. The Falls of Niagara. The newsreels had shown it destroyed by Allied bombers. Goebbels himself had narrated the footage of the falls collapsing into rubble. But there it was, untouched. A miracle of water and light. A city glittered on the horizon, intact and brilliant. They lied. They lied about everything. The radio, the teachers. This was here the whole time.
Yeah, kid. They usually do. That's how they get you to fight. Now look away before you get snowblind. We've got 3 more hours to Bowmanville. Save your eyes for seeing home someday.
The train plunged into darkness, but I kept my face pressed to the glass, watching the ghost of the falls reflected in my astonished face. I felt the medic's save warm in my palms, knowing the world was larger than the Oberstleutnant's hate. The sweetness made me gag. Not the clean scent of snow that blew through Camp 30's infirmary cracks, but something cloying, crawling from beneath the bandages wrapping my left forearm. The American salve on the train had been temporary mercy. Now, in Bowmanville's harsh light, the blackness had spread, a tide creeping toward my elbow, the skin glossy as wet leather. That's gas gangrene, Clostridium perfringens. See the crepitus? His fingers pressed the swelling, and I felt the sickening crackle of tissue giving way like crushed parchment. Muscle compartments are compromised. Without penicillin, we get systemic sepsis within 48 hours. Your pressure's dropping. Kid, this isn't about the arm anymore. It's about your heart stopping. I've seen this kill men in 12 hours. We don't have time for speeches.
He accepts nothing. The Oberstleutnant's boots struck concrete with metronomic precision, each heel click echoing off bare walls. He stood rigid, uniform still creased despite our captivity. The Führer's directive is absolute. No fraternization. This. He gestured at the amber vials with his baton, lip curling. This is biochemical warfare. They poison our blood to break our will, to make us slaves. A German dies before surrendering dignity. Die with honor, Keller, or live with shame.
Arno, look! Lucas hovered at the cot's edge, his tunic hanging loose, breath clouding in frigid air. He pointed at my blackened fingers, the blue-gray nails. Schmid says amputation is honorable, but the American can save it. I saw the black spread at Antwerp, please. They beat the last boy who disobeyed, but the last who let the rot take him. He screamed 3 days. What good is honor in frozen Canadian soil?
I'm scared, I admitted, the words fogging in the cold. My teeth chattered, not from Ontario's winter seeping through the walls, but from fever burning behind my eyes. I stared at the alien limb, heavy and cold, a dead thing dragging me toward the grave. In Belgium's field hospital before the train, Ford had risked his supplies to pack the wound while shells fell. I remembered his hands, rough, stained, but gentle, while Schmid spat accusations. Now those hands held a syringe filled with golden liquid, a miracle drawn from mold. Listen, Arno, I don't care about his honor. This is necrotic tissue racing toward your heart. He leaned close, breath smelling of tobacco and peppermint, voice dropping to a whisper carrying Mississippi summers. Your commander? He'd write you off as acceptable losses for a fatherland already burning. But that arm can be saved. I've seen penicillin work miracles at Anzio. It's a gift. Choose to live. Say yes.
If he accepts, he is marked. Schmid's voice cut like a blade. He stepped closer, shadow blocking the weak sun. Listed among traitors. No soldier accepts charity from subhumans. The Reich provides. We suffer for the fatherland. We don't take handouts. Prove your blood is pure, Keller.
You're wrong, I whispered to Schmid. About all of it.
The Reich is gone. Lucas's voice cracked, tears freezing on his cheeks. He gripped my good hand, fingers ice cold against my fevered skin. We're alive. That's all that matters. Please, for the falls you saw, take the needle.
The blackness crept another millimeter, pulsing with my heartbeat. I thought of Niagara Falls reflected in the train window, water not caring about borders. My fingers were numb sticks. I looked at Ford, not the uniform, not the enemy, but the man who crossed an ocean with salvation in his hands. Then at Schmid, immaculate and merciless, willing to bury me for a dead ideology. What's it gonna be, son? Time's running out. I extended the dying arm toward the light, toward the needle, toward the enemy who smelled like peppermint and mercy. Do it, I said, and the world became larger still. The needle enters my vein with a silver flash. It is colder than the Belgian winter outside, colder than the frozen ground we slept on during the retreat. The penicillin flows in, a clear liquid worth more than gold, more than blood, and Ford's thumb depresses the plunger with infinite slowness, as if he is watering a delicate seed rather than saving a dying boy.
Easy there. Don't fight it. Let it find the infection. This stuff's come all the way from Illinois, shipped in ice. Cost more than my yearly pay to treat one soldier, but here we are.
Step away from that prisoner, Sergeant. That medicine is reserved for German officers, not for traitors who surrender to the enemy.
Schmid's voice cuts through the morphine haze like a bayonet. He stands at the tent flap, his black uniform still bearing the mud of the Ardennes, his eyes two burning coals of righteous fury. He has not eaten in days, but his hatred sustains him, sharp and terrible.
He didn't surrender, Oberstleutnant. He was dragged from a shell crater half dead, and you're standing in a captured field hospital. You have no authority here, not anymore.
I have the authority of the blood and soil. We do not accept charity from Untermenschen. We die standing before we live kneeling.
You can have your debate outside, Colonel. This boy's got gas gangrene, and I've got maybe 12 hours to stop it from reaching his heart. Either help me hold him down or get out of my light. Those are your choices.
Ford presses a cold glass into my right hand. The shock of it makes me gasp. Real glass, smooth and heavy, not the tin cups we used in the youth. Milk fills it to the brim, white and thick, and when I press it to my lips, the cream coats my tongue. It is the first dairy I have tasted since 1943, before the rationing turned desperate. My throat works convulsively. I am drinking the wealth of a continent.
Slow down. Your gut's been empty too long. We had a boy drink too fast last week and he lost it all. Small sips. Let it build your strength.
Look at his arm, Sergeant. The color's changing already. Look at that pink coming through.
I force my eyes to focus on my forearm. Where the flesh was black and stinking just hours ago, I see pink. Faint, impossible pink, like the first flush of dawn after a month of night. The penicillin is eating the death inside me, molecule by molecule. Schmid sees it too, and his face twists with something worse than anger, envy.
They give you their precious antibiotics, while good German soldiers die in the snow without morphine. This is obscene, a waste. You should refuse it, Keller. Die with dignity rather than become their laboratory rat.
Dignity is heavy, I want to say, but my mouth is full of milk and my arm is throbbing with new, clean pain. Ford unwraps a sterile towel, white as the snow that falls on Indiana cornfields I have never seen, and wraps it around the injection site. The cotton is soft, unused, discarded after one touch. I think of our field dressings, boiled and reused until they fell apart, stiff with old blood and the taste of rust.
Fever's breaking. Feel that sweat? That's the poison leaving. Your temperature was 105 when we brought you in. Down to 101 now. You're going to make it, kid. You're going to make it.
It pours off me in a river, soaking the canvas cot, carrying the toxins out through my pores. The room stops spinning. The phantom sounds of artillery fade. Ford places his hand on my forehead, and his skin smells of tobacco and peppermint chewing gum. Sense of peace, of drugstores and Saturday evenings, of a life where young men are not expendable.
He's shaking, Sergeant. Is that normal?
That's just the fever breaking. Get him another blanket. The thick wool one from the Red Cross crate. And bring that bread we saved from breakfast.
They bring me bread. Not the gray war bread that cuts the gums, but a slice from a loaf so fresh it steams slightly in the cold tent air. The crust is soft, the interior like cotton. I take a bite and taste wheat, real wheat, unmixed with sawdust or ersatz potato. It is sweet. It is obscene in its plenty. I look from the bread to Ford's weathered face, to his hands that have killed my countrymen, but now adjust my IV with the tenderness of a father.
You disgust me. Eating their garbage, letting them poke you like livestock. The Fuhrer would have you shot for this display.
I chew slowly, letting the crumbs dissolve on my tongue. I look at Schmid, hollow, trembling, willing to bury me for a dead ideology, and then at Ford, who smells like peppermint and mercy. I realize my own commanders would have let me rot for the fatherland, but this stranger, my sworn enemy, is using a miracle of science to save a boy who tried to kill him. The bread settles in my stomach like a stone of truth. The world has become larger than Wolfram Schmid's narrow grave.
Welcome back, Arno. Welcome back to the living.
I nod, unable to speak, holding the empty glass like a chalice. The winter sun hits the scar first. It turns the tissue silver white, a river map on forearm skin so thin I can see the blue tributaries of veins beneath. I am 91 now. When I touch the ridge with my thumb, gnarled, spotted, the joint swollen into walnuts, I do not feel the pain of the needle anymore. I feel the weight of the hand that held it.
Steady, kid. This is the miracle. This is penicillin.
The smell of tobacco clings to the wool blanket in my lap. I stopped smoking in '62, but the scent remains in the fibers, ghosting through the weave like those voices ghost through the marrow of my bones. I became a citizen in 1954, stood in a courthouse in Toronto, Bowmanville was behind me, the barbed wire long since rusted into dust, and raised my right hand. The scar was hidden beneath a cheap Sears suit jacket. I swore allegiance to the king, to a country that had chained me, then fed me, then set me free. My own fatherland would have let that arm rot off for the sake of the final victory.
A soldier who accepts foreign mercy is already a corpse. Die with dignity or die in shame.
Wolfram's voice still cracks like a whip in the quiet hours. I keep it to remember. I keep it because it is the stone against which I sharpen my gratitude. The window is open. February air moves through the room, carrying the taste of rust from the old radiator, same as the taste of blood in that Belgian field hospital. I look at the scar, and I see the thread. Not suture thread, though Silas used that too, but the invisible thread that sewed a boy to the earth when his own commanders had cut him loose.
You were gray, Arno. Gray as ash. I thought you were already walking with the dead.
Lucas said that to me in '47, when we met again in a displaced persons camp. He is gone now. 12 years last spring. We used to meet for coffee on Thursdays. Two old men staring at our hands, remembering when those hands had dug frozen potatoes from the mud of Camp 30. We did not speak of Wolfram Schmid. We spoke of Silas.
You're going to live. That's an order, not a suggestion.
The words settle in my chest, heavy as the wool coat I wore that winter, the coat that swallowed me, that kept the shrapnel out, that still hangs in my closet because I cannot bear to give it away. The enemy gave me a life my own country had discarded. I trace the scar again. It is fading. They are all fading. The liberators, the prisoners, the butchers. Soon they will be stories only, then whispers, then silence.
The Reich is eternal. You are nothing.
The Reich is dust. Silas Ford, if he still lives, if the cigarettes haven't taken him, would be 96. I write him letters I never send. I tell him about the house I built in Mississauga, the daughter who teaches history, the grandson who thinks my accent is quaint. I tell him that every morning, when the light hits this scar, I touch it to make sure I am still here.
We are here because he chose mercy.
These stories are disappearing. The skin grows thinner. The ink fades. I am one of the last who remembers the weight of that empty glass, the taste of penicillin bitter on the tongue, the precise moment when the world became larger than one man's narrow grave. If you are reading this, listening to this, know that the scar is not a wound. It is a bridge. And I am still crossing it. I am 96 years old now. The scar on my thigh has faded to silver, barely visible beneath the white hair that covers my legs like frost. Dr. Henderson passed in '89, and the boys from my unit, Gunter, Franz, young Klaus, are all gone now. My grandchildren ask me about the war. They want to hear about battles, about glory and sacrifice. But I tell them about the cold glass vial of penicillin and a fresh white bread sandwich with thick butter. Bet we share these stories so the humanity of that generation is never forgotten. If you believe these memories should be preserved, please subscribe to help us keep them alive before the last of us who remember are gone. I can still feel the chill of that glass against my palm and taste the sweetness of the butter, richer than anything I had known. The characters, incidents, and dialogue in this video are dramatized for narrative and entertainment effect. While some events may be inspired by real-life themes, this story is a work of fiction.